Hey everyone, so for today I'm planning to continue to work on the elevators for my RV-10. As you remember, most of the elevators have been already completed, so we still have left trailing edges which needs to be done, and we also have to do actual trim tops. So for the trailing edges I'm planning just to apply the tank sealer, and that should make it. And in a couple of days the tank sealer will dry out and I can have it after that riveted. For the trim tabs, what I have to do for the trim tabs, basically I will have to cut that foam to insert it. This foam also goes into the elevators. It actually goes like an inserts, so I'll have to put those on the tank sealer as well. Plus half of those foam will go to trim tabs, which I have to fabricate. Like this foam has to be fabricated in a specific shape and install it into the trim tabs. So let's see how it's gonna go. Well, I hope I will finally finish today during this video my elevators, and next video I'll start to work on my towards my tail cone. But I don't want to plan, I don't know how it's gonna go, I don't want to rush things, but well, let's see. Came to counterweights. Well, basically, as you could see, I started to do right away everything. According to Van's manual, they wanted first to finish completely the elevators, and after they wanted me to start work on the trim tabs. But just by going ahead of time, because there is this sort of a sealant, right? That's a tank sealant. It's inside. I'll show it to you later. And once I activate it, so basically mix two components together, and they are mixed actually by just like pushing some rod inside. So once I activate it, that thing will not last for long. So and since we will most likely need a tank sealer for both, for the trim tabs and for the rudders, I decided first to move on and just prepare everything. And before, I already prepared what? I prepared those wooden things, like wooden stands or jigs to fit in my my trim tabs. That's gonna be at a later stage. I also cut off all those from the foam, those forms to put inside of the trim tabs and the elevators. And now I came to the counterweights. So we have 4 counterweights, and 2 of them, all 4 we have to cut. Like just the form, just a little bit shape them. Well, it wasn't that difficult. I used the bandsaw and it worked, well, kind of well, not well, but it worked. Now, for some reason, well, not for some reason, but for obvious reason, Vance wants us to cut off 2 out of 4 counterweights, the top part. If you take a look at the shape, you see there is like this top portion of it. So they want us to completely cut off this portion. And well, Obviously bandsaw doesn't work here, so we'll just stick inside and just probably gonna cut. So I have to do it somehow. I don't know what's gonna be the right solution. I don't have probably such right tool to cut this. So what I'm using, first I was trying to use a bandsaw, but it immediately turned out it's not possible. So there is the this saw for wood, which again doesn't work well. But what I found the sort of a saw for the drywall, and it actually works. It takes time. So this one is already done, and I was able to cut it. And well, it takes time, maybe about 20-30 minutes. So you just basically go like that, slowly, and you just millimeter by millimeter and inch by inch. After that, you see, so you technically cut it. So, well, that's what I work on right now. I have to cut the second counterweight, basically just to remove the top portion. Well, so I went to store and bought something what I will need to actually finish my my elevators. So first of all, it's a just basic PVC pipe, which is used in plumbing, for the kitchen, wherever, for the washrooms. This pipe I'm planning to use to roll the ends of the skin for my elevators, as well as I remember I was supposed to do that for my rudder, so that's going to be used for that. And also I bought 3 each 4 feet aluminum angles. Well, just basic aluminum angles, and thus I will definitely need for when I'm going to be applying the tank sealer. I will need those in order to put them along the side of the edge. I'm going to achieve that. Alright, so I prepared my aluminum angles for the for actually holding off my trailing edges on the elevators, and just pre-drilled them so everything looks more or less good. And I did them on the full length, so it's 4 feet, but it's still not enough for the full length of the rudder. But anyway, so this part is done. Now the next part will be to start to use this. That's a tank sealer. Well, I bought from Aircraft Spruce the smallest amount they had. That should be, in my opinion, sufficient for me to apply for my trim tabs as well as for my elevators. So it smells. Alright, so we have our trailing edges all sealed with a tank sealer. We have our trim tabs also, inner parts, inner inserts sealed. So everything looks so far so good. I also attempted to bend the top part of the skins. Well, it worked not that bad with the PVC pipe, and I'll show that in my video later when I'm going to be bending the bottom sides. What I want to say is that this tank sealing, it smells bad and it's dirty as hell. It's everywhere. I don't know, like it's everywhere on the elevators. It's everywhere around the trailing edges, and on my workbench, and even on those places where I even haven't touched with my fingers, with my hand. It's still everywhere. So it's messy, and I had to clean everything with acetone in order to make it more or less clean. But now it's fine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just leave it here for a couple of days, probably for 2, 3, 4 days, let it dry out. Well, 1 week later, and we have a problem. We have a big problem here with our tank sealant. So basically, if you take a look here, I installed those ribs inside of my trim tabs, applied tank sealer, and a week later they're moving there, just easily movable inside. So that's a problem. My tank sealant, but it's still soft. I mean, it's still soft as a glue. So I don't know what to say, I don't know what's the reason for that. My guess is, I know the shelf life is a half year, but I bought it in December, so I guess April, December, it's not a half year yet. The storage temperatures, well, it was about between like 65 to 75 Fahrenheit, or like, say, 17, 16 to 22 Celsius. Now, what else it can be? Mixing, like preparation of the glue. Well, I did everything as per instructions, so I mixed it as I should. Maybe not, maybe I missed some step. No, I mean, it was just simple, just push the pin and start mixing after that. So anyway, my tank sealant never activated, so I cannot leave it like that. I have to remove that. I have to, actually I installed 4 rivets on the side, so I have to drill it out. I have to fix that, so I have to remove my ribs. I have to use acetone to clean everything inside, and I have to get another tank sealant and apply it. So it's going to be a work. But the bad thing is not this. The bad thing is that the same tank sealant I applied to my trailing edges of my elevators. That's a problem, because right now I don't know what to do. I have to clean there as well. I'm sure it's the same situation there. I have to clean everything there. I have to open up, clean everything. It's a nightmare. Anyway, that's a part of the game, right? So a little bit slowing down, but it's okay because it's a COVID all around, so I have no idea when my wings will arrive. Hopefully in July, maybe in June, July probably. So I still have April, May, June to work on that, and we want to have a good airplane, right, built. So we want to fly it and fly my family. So I'll take care of that. I will spend time, and again, well, it's unpredictable, unforeseen situation. Instead of starting as I was planning to start my tail cone, I'll be working on this. Anyway, let's watch. As you could see on the trims, like trim tabs, the tank sealer didn't become solid or whatever. While here on the and what I did actually there on trim tabs, so I fully cleaned those. I opened them up. I fully cleaned those inside with acetone. I removed those stiffeners, like those things from inside, tree from edge. After that, I cleaned them as much as I could, but obviously I couldn't clean them. They still remain like that dark brown colored. I read on forums actually, and I saw one guy on the internet, on YouTube also did that. I took that good spray, like sealant, like the spray in the tank. You saw I was using. This one, it's like a heavy duty one, well, quite strong one. And I basically applied it first across those little stiffeners. I let it dry for an hour, so it became like solid surface. And actually the tank sealer, which was a little bit dry at that point, became very solid right away. After that, I used that adhesive and spray and I installed those ribs inside, and after that I put everything on Clicos. So that part worked well, and I'm sure it's gonna be fine. And I read, I'm not alone who did like that. Anyway, that part is aside, and my trim tabs are now okay. So they are sitting, waiting for glue to cure, like to become solid, and it's gonna take some time. Now, it's interesting about my elevators, because here I had a hard time even to remove my well, self-made part, like just to hold this to hold the Clicos inside well. And it looks like here tank sealer is perfectly fine. Yeah, it looks dirty, I will clean it right now, but it looks like the tank sealer here is perfectly fine. And now my question is, I don't understand something. How come on the trim tabs it's not fine, and on my elevators it's perfectly, like almost not solid, but you know, like it's strong? Those parts were in the same temperature, same place, and I basically used them. I mean, everything was in the same location and place I used. I applied, if I'm not mistaken, I applied a tank sealant to my trim tabs at first, and in about maybe an hour, I applied it to maybe 40 minutes, even 40 minutes. I didn't spend an hour, 40 minutes, because I know there is some time after which I cannot use the tank sealant. I applied it to my elevators. So that's a question. Anyway, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna probably inspect it more deeply, and I see, and probably I'm gonna start riveting after cleaning up my elevators. I'm gonna start riveting those. But it's an open question for me. What's happened? How come tank sealant didn't work on one part, it worked on another part? Same conditions, everything is the same, it's just different. So finally, the assembly of the elevators finished now. So I have both elevators assembled and prepared for inspection in the future, and in the meantime, well, it's more or less assembled. I have some issues though, and those issues are, well, as you know, the first issue was my tank sealant, and my wife actually just helped me, and she gave me an idea what could happen. And actually what happened is that tank sealant, I mixed it improperly. So basically, as I said, two of my trim tabs, the glue hasn't set, so it actually was like very soft, still like a glue, while on first trim on the first elevator it was perfect, and on the second elevator I found some place also not perfect, like still soft, so not set. I realized that when I initially used that little amount, I guess 6 or 8 O's of that tank sealant, I had to mix it for a long time, like spin that thing for a long time. I didn't do that. I did it for like a couple of minutes only. Probably I had to go through all way. Anyway, that's a mistake. Second problem, my leading edge. When I'm looking at my leading edge, it's not perfectly straight. I can see some little waves. I guess it's because of the rivets which I set. So I guess that when I was setting the rivets, those rivets gave some waves. So now the second question, how bad is that? Well, first of all, how bad my leading edge is, I will show it right now and we will be able to see. And I'm not sure if you can see those little tiny waves on the leading edge, but leading edge is not perfectly straight, like it's not, the surface is not perfect straight. So I would say like there are some waves from the rivets in their places. I don't know how bad is that. And the second problem here is also that my trim tab, it also has some little waves. I don't know, again, is it possible to see or not, like tiny waves. And if we look straight across the trim tab and leading edge, it's kind of straight, but yeah, it's kind of straight, but still we can see a little bit like little curvature here. So the question is, how bad is that? Like what that will influence? I guess of course the flight characteristics of the airplane that will influence. Well, so far the rest is done. It looks like it's done, and the both elevators are assembled, everything is attached. Everything where I could rivet here has been riveted, like all the rivets were installed, except only those ones which will influence the ability of the inspector to inspect inner shop heads of the rivets. So let's call it done. Let's call it done and let's move on to the next section 10, which is tail cone. That's it. That's all for today, and I'm starting to work on the tail cone in my next video. It was a long video. It took me about 2 or 3 weeks to actually record it, because there was lots of work here, but believe me, it's lots of work. Who did that should know that to assemble both elevators it takes time, and don't rush, and don't do my mistakes, and especially about tank sealant. Holy, I mean, it's first experience to work with tank sealant, and I must say that yeah, I have to mix it better. Anyway, see you in the next video. Bye.